On the night of October 31st, 1517, a powerful act took place. Martin Luther, a Catholic priest, nailed his 95 theses to the castle door in Wittenberg, Germany. This was a call for reform, specifically changing the doctrine and practices of indulgences. What started as a protest became the beginning of the Protestant Reformation. At the time, an indulgence intended as a spiritual act of penance had devolved into something more transactional, a way of paying for forgiveness. As the church grew in power, political influence, and wealth, this practice was corrupted by greed. Luther chose this night in particular, knowing the church would be full the next day for All Saints' Day, guaranteeing a wide audience for his concerns. As you can imagine, this created a massive storm, resulting in Luther having to flee for a time. This was one of the first times the universal church experienced a massive time of reform. Can you imagine those congregational meetings? Probably maybe a little more exciting than what we got. This was also an era that was filled with grief. The Church Universal, along with its people, felt a deep groan of loss. The grief of what the church once was, the grief of war, loss of life and loved ones, and the grief of not knowing how to be as a person directly affected by such upheaval. Walking with grief can be profoundly unsettling. It can be filled with great anxiety, yet also great hope for what can be. Living in this time can feel like a contradiction, a dichotomy of truth. Our gospel text today, the story of Zacchaeus, reflects this unsettling time. When we hear his story, we are called to two things. The first is the impatient lament, to lament the injustices of systems and individuals like tax collectors who wield unjust power to oppress and marginalize the vulnerable. And the second, to be a patient observer, to patiently observe where God is moving amid the oppressive structures. This tension then, this impatient lament and patient observing, is not aimless. This unsettledness is an opportunity for focused observation. There is always more than what meets the eye. There is always more information to be gained that can assist us in understanding, responding, and challenging unjust power. In this time of waiting, expectation, and reforming, we might be surprised by what God is doing and who God is inspiring to act for liberation and change. Living with grief, anticipation, and expectation can be life-altering if we let it, even in the midst of loss. Theologian Howard Thurman wrote, quote, "What happens to you won't destroy you unless you allow it to get in you." As we process our grief in its many forms, whether personal, congregational, or societal, what we decide will impact us, but it does not have to destroy us. It certainly could have destroyed Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus was a Jew who worked for the Roman Empire, a hated tax collector. He became complicit in his own oppression to avoid the poverty of his time. He accepted what was available to him and normalized the injustice around him simply to survive. Seems to be a familiar theme. If survival was all Zacchaeus valued, he would not have climbed that sycamore tree. He had food. He had shelter. He had control in a small community who feared him. Yet he climbed. And perhaps in that moment, he too was looking for a way out, a way not to be destroyed by the grief of what he had become. Perhaps he was looking with great anticipation and expectation for something more. Jesus makes a way out of no way. And Zacchaeus found that to be true. When Jesus saw him, he offered salvation with a simple call. Zacchaeus, would you hurry up and come down here? Because guess what? I'm staying at your house today. Jesus meets us where we're at. He knew who Zacchaeus was, the tax collector, the oppressor, the outsider, and yet he called him by name. The name Zacchaeus in Hebrew means pure or innocent. Living as a tax collector made it difficult to live up to that name. But when one encounters Jesus, the opportunity to reclaim one's true name and identity becomes clear. In that moment of transformation, Zacchaeus spontaneously announces he will give back fourfold, paying restitution. He changed on the fly with no promise of the future, yet the change is apparent. As Reverend Willie Dwayne Francois III writes, quote, "When you embrace your divine identity, you are defined beyond your inventory, infractions, and insecurities," end quote. Authentic grace is not the power to purchase, it is the power to change the narrative. Zacchaeus created a new story for himself. He claimed his selfhood. Commentator Mary Barnett quotes an essay from Rowan Williams, who writes that our call from God is really about identity. It's not just about hearing God tell us what to do, but about listening for and courageously being who we already are. To be is to be where you are, who you are, and what you are. We are people with a multiplicity of gifts, talents, and abilities, and yes, some of us may currently describe ourselves as walking with grief. But that alone does not have to be the only thing that identifies us. Much like Zacchaeus was not only a tax collector. Grief is a part of our experience, but it is not our total self-definition. We can and must regain our full identity, even in the midst of loss. So folks, it's time for us. Time for us to stand our ground and embrace our divine identity, an identity that values extravagant welcome and that can hold both the sense of loss and the promise of resurrection. As we stand at the doors of Reformation once again, on this All Saints' Day, we realize there is a cost to both letting go and imagining something new. But there's also a great deal of hope and promise. If Jesus called Zacchaeus down from his tree, I know unequivocally that Jesus calls us down from our pedestals, our trees, and our hiding places, just as we are. That simple call to come down is a call to listen, to hope, and to embrace the transformation that is full of a whole lot of grace and love. May it be so. Amen.
Well, welcome. What was your name again? Ah,